Good afternoon. A day early this week because I wanted to do with you a wellbeing special. It has become increasingly aware to me that we are finding it more and more stressful to be in this lockdown situation as it continues, and a lot of people are starting to go, oh, we're nearly at the end, and it makes me a little bit nervous because it will be a phased return when we get the go ahead and reopen the school. We haven't got any information yet, and we will keep you posted to that as to when that is. But in the meantime, I thought I would spend some time today talking to you about well-being and how you can manage at home for you and your family. I will send out what I'm going to say to you this afternoon in more detail as a letter, so that once I've spoken to you, you can read it and you can use it as a checklist if you want to. I know that at the moment it's really difficult, and that you're going to be finding managing home life, work life, homeschooling and juggling all those balls really challenging. So I want you to know that we're with you, and whatever you're doing your best, and that's the most important thing. But what you will notice is you will notice increased anxiety in your children. And forgive me, but I'm now going to almost read a list to you, because I want you to know that some of the feelings that your children are feeling are quite natural. Some of them will want to talk about the virus all the time. Some of them won't want to talk about it at all. They're going to be expressing sadness, anger and fear. They might be watching the news every 5 minutes and wanting to share all the information that they know about it, whether it's true or false or otherwise. They're probably having trouble concentrating. They might be picking fights with you and their brothers and sisters in a way to express how they're feeling about things. The older ones might be thinking about abusing alcohol and drugs. One or two of them might be fearing leaving the house at all. I certainly know that my stepson is struggling with that at the moment. He just doesn't want to leave the house. And he is distancing himself from friends and family, so you might find that that's what's happening with you too. Don't worry about that. There are going to be some intense emotions exhibited, and it's only to be expected. So as I've said, I've put together some resources for you to help you deal with all of these feelings that are going to be happening for both your children and possibly yourselves. But you do know that if you need to speak to us, you can just email us at the school on a one-to-one basis and we will reply. You can email myself, Mrs. Massingham and Miss Lockyer, and we will be happy to talk to you. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly go through these resources with you, but first of all I want to talk about taking care of yourself as a parent. Make sure that you connect with each other. Make sure that you eat well. Make sure that you sleep well. Get some exercise. Do take note of what I've said last week. Turn off the news, only watch it once a day. Do things that you enjoy too, I know I have been, and set yourself some goals and give yourself some tasks to do outside of what you normally do. I am baking and knitting, as I said. Connect with the outdoors. I think that's so important. We're so lucky, this beautiful countryside that we have, although not today. So connect with the outdoors. And take some time to talk to people. Make sure that you're FaceTiming that person who energises you. Who energises you? Whoever it is, make contact with them. And who do you energise? For me, it's my sister. So whenever I feel that need to be re-energised, I FaceTime her and she does the same for me. So that's taking care of you. Next, I want to talk to you about how to talk about the situation. Now, I've got some guidance for younger children and for our teenagers, and I know that a lot of you at home have got younger children, so I'm going to give you a little bit about advice about that. Deal with the news head on. Tell them a story about the virus in a language that they understand, and talk about what is happening at the moment. Don't be afraid to talk about it. Encourage them to ask questions. It's really good if they want to ask you questions, and don't be concerned that you don't know all the answers. You can say to them, I don't know the answer to that. I'll have a look online and I'll come back to you and tell you what the answer is. They will ask you questions and you won't know all the answers. None of us are experts, let's face it. Be a role model. So if you want them to wash their hands, make sure you're washing your hands all the time and that they see you doing that. If they see you eating good food, they will eat good food. If they see you going to bed at a sensible time, maybe they will do the same. So be a role model for them. Explain how the immune system's working. Explain to them that we do have natural immunity in our bodies, and that we are, most of us, able to combat this virus, and it's not something to be frightened of. Keep doing your bit to help reduce the spread of germs. Let them see you cleaning, let them see you doing all the things that you know works. This is all about being a role model for them, and it's really important for those younger ones. But most important, give them a story which you can expand on if you need to. For the older students, it's pretty similar. All of those things that I've said that you should be doing for the younger students, the same applies. Reassure them, make sure that they understand everything that's going on. Try not to let them surf the internet too much. Encourage them to maintain social ties. They come to school to see their mates as much as they come to school to learn. So it's really important that they get the opportunity to FaceTime their friends, text their friends. Obviously, we need to get that balance right between that increased use of the internet, but at the same time, encourage them to talk to the people they know, again, because it's those people that energise them, their friends, and they energise each other. So encourage them to do that. And equip them with accurate information and give them places where they can talk about that. Now, you might not know what that looks like, so in the pack that I'm going to send out, look for that heading, because under the heading, equip them with information, find them someone to talk to, or some websites that they can go on where they can find things out and they can talk to people who are more knowledgeable than us, so almost like online counselling. So I will send you the links for those, and you can use those to equip your children with what they need to know. So our at-home newsletter is coming out again later this week, and it's focusing on the teaching and learning aspect to complement the wellbeing conversation I've had with you today. However, some of you are still needing guidance and advice on how best to manage the online learning, so I thought what I would do is to finish with just a little summary of the best nuggets of advice to help you manage the online learning. So hopefully by now you've created a routine for your day, a timetable of sorts. So I'm not going to use that word timetable, I think the word routine is much better, and my advice to you is to try and stick to it. If there are any changes to that, make sure that you include your child in those conversations. Create the routines together and agree the routines together so that you both feel that you own it. And if it needs to change, it needs to change. If it's not working that day because today the both of you feel like everything's going wrong, don't worry about it. It's there, but it's not compulsory. While I say it's not compulsory, if you're a student and you're watching this, that's not an excuse not to do anything, because we are monitoring you and we will be contacting home to see if you're okay if your work output is less than it should be. If you've got siblings in the household, think about combining those timetables. I've seen some lovely examples from my cousins where the older students are helping the younger students, and that's a really nice thing to do if it's possible. Certainly they know a lot more about maths than I do. Have you got a designated workspace? Have you got a clear beginning and end to the day? Have you made it clear that there are weekdays and there are weekends, and they're very different days, so make sure you're doing that. Take stock at the end of each week. Sit down together as a family and say, okay, what went well this week? What isn't working this week? What do we need to change for next week? So make sure at the end of the week you get together and you discuss the successes and the areas for improvement. So if you can't completely stick to your timetable for academia, there are other things you can do. Make sure you give them some opportunities to do some chores. Make sure they feel part of the family life. If they can't do their academic work because their head's too full, they can wash up, certainly. Ask them to help you cook and bake, because it's very therapeutic. And again, they can cook, they can bake. And finally, from all of us, accept that we will probably watch more television, we will probably watch more films, and we will probably go online more. It is inevitable, but do monitor that. I'm going to send all of this information out to you, plus some more, in a pack today, and I hope that you will find it useful and encouraging. It's all about getting that balance and looking after everybody. And I will see you again next week.